Mode 6, the Aeolian scale. This is the sixth scale of the 7 that make up the modal scales, so you've nearly reached completion of all the scales. However, you'll probably find you have to return to them again and again for a while before you can memorize them all completely. The Aeolian scale is exactly the same as the natural minor, and this scale is used an awful lot. Because of this, it's worthwhile learning this scale particularly well if you can. Today we're going to look at the A Aeolian scale, and that's because, as with the previous scales we've covered, it's in the key of C major. And what makes this an A Aeolian scale is the fact that it starts and finishes on the root note of A. Today we'll be looking at two versions of this scale, and both of them start on the 5th fret of the bottom E string and finish on the 5th fret of the top E string. However, the shape in between is completely different. Even though these two scales have completely different shapes, the pattern of intervals or semitones remains the same, and that pattern is 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. So, before we go any further, I'll play these two scales on top of each other so you can hear that they're more or less identical. We'll learn both shapes of A Aeolian scale. However, whichever shape you choose to memorize is entirely up to you. It really depends on which one you prefer to play and find easier to memorize. How to play the A Aeolian scale, shape 1. Play the 5th fret of the bottom E string with the first finger. Play the 7th fret of the bottom E string with the 3rd finger. Play the 8th fret of the bottom E string with the 4th finger. Play the 5th fret of the A string with the 1st finger. Play the 7th fret of the A string with the 3rd finger. Play the 8th fret of the A string with the 4th finger. Play the 5th fret of the D string with the 1st finger. Play the 7th fret of the D string with the 3rd finger. Play the 4th fret of the G string with the 1st finger. Play the 5th fret of the G string with the 2nd finger. Play the 7th fret of the G string with the 4th finger. Play the 5th fret of the B string with the 1st finger. Play the 6th fret of the B string with the 2nd finger. Play the 8th fret of the B string with the 4th finger. Finally, play the 5th fret of the top E string with the 1st finger. Now, let's hear that played again up and down the neck more quickly with a metronome. Right, let's learn to play the A Aeolian scale using the second shape. Firstly, play the 5th fret of the bottom E string with the 4th finger. Play the 2nd fret of the A string with the 1st finger. Play the 3rd fret of the A string with the 2nd finger. Play the 5th fret of the A string with the 4th finger. Play the 2nd fret of the D string with the 1st finger. Play the 3rd fret of the D string with the 2nd finger. Play the 5th fret of the D string with the 4th finger. Play the 2nd fret of the G string with the 1st finger. Play the 4th fret of the G string with the 3rd finger. Play the 5th fret of the G string with the 4th finger. Play the 3rd fret of the B string with the 1st finger. Play the 5th fret of the B string with the 3rd finger. Play the 6th fret of the B string with the 4th finger. Play the 3rd fret of the top E string with the 1st finger. And finally, play the 5th fret of the top E string with the 3rd finger. Right, let's see and hear that played again more quickly, up and down the neck with a metronome. Once you've decided which one of these two shapes of scale you prefer to play, it's a good idea to then memorise it and try to speed it up. However, there's no hurry to do this. Take your time, even if it takes you a few months to get it reasonably quick and smooth and memorised. That's time well spent. Right, let's just look at some more information about this scale that you'll find very useful. At the beginning we mentioned that not only is this the Aeolian scale, but it's also the minor scale. And this is true. They're both one and the same. This is the natural minor scale that we've looked at previously. However, even though we know this is a minor scale, we also know it came from the major scale. This is because it's the 6th shift along in the pattern from the Ionian pattern. So, the minor pattern is developed from the major pattern, shifting it along. In other words, even though this is an A natural minor scale, it has the key signature of C. It has no sharps and flats. Therefore, this is what's called a relative minor. Every single major has a relative minor. And this can be very useful for us if you want to improvise or write music. So, the relative minor of C major is A minor. Therefore, in a piece of music with a C major key signature, the A minor chord or scale can be used, and it should sound good providing it's used correctly. We can demonstrate this by playing the C major scale and the A minor scale over the top of a backing track that's in C major, and if the scales didn't work together, you'd be able to hear it quite clearly. From this simple demonstration, you can see just how well the scales of C major and A minor work with the backing that's in the key of C. Another reason these scales work so well together is because they're so close to one another. you can pass quite easily from one scale to the other. Here you can see I've marked in red the notes they share. So these notes in red are common to both the scales. And this close proximity of the scales also leads to another useful thing. The minor scale is always 3 frets down from the major, or the major is always 3 frets up from the minor. And this is useful because you can work out the relative minor scale just by going down 3 frets. In this illustration, you can see how we've done that and worked out the relative minors of several different major scales. This can be really handy when improvising or writing music. Just keep that gap between the major and the minor and they'll always sound good together. Don't worry if you find this hard to understand or you don't find it in any way useful at this point. You will in the future, and we'll go through it again when we start studying songwriting for the guitar, and we'll look at it more extensively with more exercises. Then hopefully it'll become far more clear. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications. That way you'll know when I upload new tutorials. Also, if you'd like to print out this lesson or just have the PDF on your own computer or mobile device, you can find the link below in the description. And thank you for watching.